NAFTA talks are supposed to resume this summer, at least according to the Canadian government. But developments in Mexico and the U.S. would suggest otherwise. President Donald Trump now says he wants to wait until after midterm elections this fall to sign any NAFTA deal. And Mexico's president-elect isn't even sworn in until December. Incoming leader Andrés Manuel López Obrador says he's committed to renegotiating NAFTA, but he's also been known to criticize the deal. So what should we expect? Joining me now is Mexican Ambassador to Canada, Dionisio Pérez-Jácome. Hi, Ambassador Jácome. Nice to see you again.
Vassy, nice to see you again. Thank you for inviting me.
No, thanks for being here, as always. So there were a lot of issues contributing to this election. Many of them were domestic. NAFTA wasn't a huge issue. It didn't appear to be. Can you tell us how much of a priority you think NAFTA will be in light of that for this new president?
Well, let me take a minute first to comment quickly on the election. It was a very important, the largest election in Mexico's history. Over 18,000 public officials were elected on that day. Turnout was 63%, and 1.5 million Mexicans participated in the effort. It was a clear example of democratic institutions working and the system and the civic engagement. Now, the campaigns covered a broad number of topics, obviously, many domestic. Now what I can say with regards to NAFTA, certainly Mr. López Obrador has been referring to NAFTA. He has acknowledged that, on his opinion, NAFTA has been beneficial to the three countries, and he has expressed an interest in reaching a successful negotiation of NAFTA.
He's also said that he won't touch it, really, until his inauguration in December. We heard over the weekend from President Trump that he doesn't want to deal with it or won't likely sign an agreement until the midterms in November. Does that effectively mean NAFTA is on the ice until then?
What we have right now in Mexican politics is a period called the transition period. During this transition period, which is from now until December the 1st, which is the date in which the new government will take office, there is a coordination between the incoming team, the incoming advisors from Mr. López Obrador team, and the current government. Yesterday, President Peña Nieto and Mr. López Obrador met. They discussed several topics, including trade, and they agreed that once Mr. López Obrador receives the formal declaration of victory from the tribunal, the Federal Electoral Tribunal, which is validating right now, it's a process that has to take place, then the transition will start. And during that transition, well, Mexico, Minister Guajardo has expressed, we are ready to continue being engaged and participating, looking for...
So active negotiations on NAFTA can continue then? And when does that start?
They can continue. Actually, Mr. Guajardo has said that we are ready, and if they decide, obviously the ministers and Ambassador Lighthizer will need to speak to see what's next. No? But during the transition period, what will happen is that Mexico will be internally coordinating between the incoming team and the current negotiating team of Mr. Guajardo, which, by the way, has been recognized by López Obrador and by his advisors as having done a good job.
Let me ask you about one issue that did come up a lot during the negotiations, and we've discussed before on the show, and that is the desire on the part of the U.S., especially, but also Canada, to see the Mexican team sort of be agreeable to raising wages. You said something like that was aspirational. Do you think under this president that will change?
Well, we will have to wait, obviously, until...
But he has been vocal about wanting to raise wages.
One of his advisors said, let me go back to what an advisor, a top advisor on trade, Mr. Seade, mentioned recently. He said on the topic of wages, perhaps the topic of wages should best be dealt outside of NAFTA. So we will have to wait until those particular elements and details on how to...
Do you think that's true? Do you think that this president will deal with the topic of wages outside of NAFTA? Because he has said that he is, that he wants to work on them, that he thinks they could rise.
Mr. López Obrador, during his campaign, was very active on social elements. So we will wait to see how he ends up incorporating into his national plan, the development plan that he has to present to the country, all the different elements that he has addressed during his campaign.
But I'm asking you specifically about wages and what you think. Do you think that under this president, the sort of discussion has changed?
Well, we have to take into consideration that wages have been increasing in Mexico. We have done many reforms in this administration that have increased productivity, that have allowed wages to go up. We have seen, and we have some sectors, such as the export sector, where wages have been increasing even more rapidly than in the rest of the economy, or the manufacturing sector that has also been experiencing some of the best wages. So the country is advancing as we create more opportunities for jobs, as we increase productivity. Wages have been naturally going up. So
I understand what you're saying completely. I take your point, but from the U.S., many politicians in the U.S. and here in Canada, they're saying they're still not high enough, and I'm sure you're aware of that argument.
We have been increasing. Obviously, we started from a lower base. And we have different realities in our countries, no? Which is something that gives an advantage of North America as a bloc. No? But we are working hard. We want to increase, obviously, the living conditions of the people as much as possible.
The new president has also said that he said, we are going to extend our hand honestly in the search of a friendly and respectful cooperation in terms of the relationship with the U.S. and Mr. Trump. Do you think that that is realistic given all that's happened in the past?
He was very clear, has been very clear. Mr. López Obrador, in his statement, in his victory speech and some interviews yesterday, he had a telephone conversation with President Trump. It was reported from both sides as being constructive. So yes, he has mentioned he intends to have and pursue a friendly relation with the United States and addressing, obviously, all the objectives that he has set forward or that he will implement once he becomes president. So we will have to wait until he becomes president to know exactly the details.
Speaking of a friendly relationship, before I let you go, I have to ask you, there are some politicians here in Ottawa who are, quote unquote, boycotting the July 4th party at the U.S. ambassador's residence. Are you going to attend?
I'm going to attend, yes. I will be celebrating with American people, with my American friends, the independence of the United States. I will be there, and I think I will be there. Commercial issues, we are dealing them on a separate track, no? But this is a time to be with our friends.
All right, thanks a lot, Ambassador. Pleasure to have you back. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me.